first off, in order to get into this school of climate change, you have to accept that climate change is real. Now, that's a preschool requisite. If you don't believe climate change is real, then anything beyond that, we can't go further. I mean, there's nowhere to go further with that. So with the acceptance of the climate does change, now start into the kindergarten aspects of that. You got in the northern hemisphere, and you got a southern hemisphere, and then you got seasons, and they're opposite on opposite ends of the hemisphere. And then the farther towards the poles you get on either hemisphere, the colder it gets. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, a wind from the north is going to make your climate get colder. Okay, now that's elementary climate change. But you get beyond that, and towards the end of elementary, you start learning about the periodic table, and that involves different gases that are in air that affect how the air holds temperatures. Okay, so with that top of the line elementary knowledge, then you're ready to go to the middle school of climate change, and that concerns human beings' effect upon the climate and the potential to, as humans and the way we live our lives, to cause the climate change. Okay, that's there you begin to learn the applications of the periodic table and the long-term effects of producing certain gases through combustion fuels and whatnot, and that's potential to have an effect on the climate. Now, beyond that middle school aspect, in the high school of climate change, you would get into understanding the debate of how much the climate changes and how changing the way machinery is powered would affect that one way or the other, whether it be battery powered as opposed to combustion fuel and this and that. So that's a high school that we're not going to go into because there are already qualified debates on all this that have already been had. Here, from this middle school, you've pre-selected yourself to go into a make-believe school of theoretical climate change caused by human beings that is just supposed by me. So, as if I were Professor Xavier whisking you off to the X-Men School of Climate Change, it's just make-believe as that. And from here, we'll suppose other ways that we as human beings could intentionally change the climate. And from there, I would suppose potential satellites outside the atmosphere. And if you were to take the nuclear power used to produce an atomic explosion and concentrate that into a laser beam, but then use like a spreading nozzle like you would for a water hose that causes it to spray out, because you wouldn't want the radiation to shoot down as one laser beam, or you would just pierce the clouds in one single spot. So use some dispersal mechanism to cause the laser beam to flare out, where you could potentially disperse the gases and spread out the clouds and dry out the air for sunbeams to strike a place and cause it to become hotter. Now, using the same sort of satellite system, which I would presume would be unmanned and operated like a drone, so it could be cause the climate change, the man-made climate change, to produce effects. Say you wanted to, you could potentially, if this worked, in causing this basically a hole in the ozone for all the heat to come down through, you could turn a place to a desert in a certain amount of time through this type of climate change. Or you could potentially concentrate gases, and instead of shooting a laser beam down in, be spraying tons of oxygen into the hydrogen that's high in the atmosphere and produce clouds. And this would be a way that man could alter the climate. Here at the now, see, you take these ideas and be like, well, now if any of this works, wouldn't you get a patent on it? Wait a minute. First of all, if any of these ideas work, this isn't the idea you get a patent on. This is the idea, the type of ideas that could potentially change the whole framework of the world if it worked. You know, I mean, this would be the type of idea that governments would be actively seeking to get a hold of and get the information before you had a chance to do anything with it, and therefore also the dispersal of this information will be closely monitored and restricted, and wouldn't want it to fall into the hands of the wrong people. So therefore, if this was anything other than make-believe type stuff, it would probably be something that somebody would have already thought of and applied. And if they did so, I mean, it would certainly be extremely secretive and all that. So obviously it's a dead end here at the Gifted School of Climate Change.